Welcome back, ladies. We are here with you today because we're excited. We're actually going to dive a little bit deep about how to find the most aligned coach for y'all. Because I know that finding a coach can be scary for some of us. It could feel very unknown. Some of us may have not had an experience of working with a coach. And sometimes the information that's out there gets you kind of, iffy. But we want to make sure that in this episode to allow you guys to start looking into discernment when we're making choices on whether or not a coach is good for us and is aligned with what we want. Because, y'all, we want you guys to all be served in the best way possible. No matter who you work with, no matter who you connect with, we just want to make sure that you are taking care of that mind, body, and spirit of yours, right? And to still honor that authenticity piece of your journey, of who you are, and to make sure that you have the right people helping you elevate. So it's about to get good. I promise you, this is going to be fun. This is going to be great things because we're just going to tap into what our experiences have been. And yeah, ladies, to allow you to build that relationship with your discernment and to just know and be confident in that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get started. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
And I feel like one of the reasons why we're having this conversation too is because I feel like there are so many coaches out there, and it's so overwhelming seeing so many different people saying different things. So, who do you listen to? Who do you follow? Who do you hire? Right. And I feel like this episode, because we've had those experiences personally, we also want to share, what works for us and help you kind of determine how to choose someone that you're working with because it is overwhelming, right? Like when you see all these people online, it's like, who's right, who's wrong, who do I go with, right?
100% girl. So let's get started because those are good points. Like,
Yeah.
because there's so many people, it just feels hard sometimes to know who we can go to.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's get started. Like, I'm like, woohoo, let's
So I think coaching is a lot like dating.
it
Oh,
is.
yes.
Yes.
So you're gonna have all these candidates, right? Everyone coming at you, everyone trying to holler at you.
Gosh, I love that.
But you're obviously not gonna say yes to all of them, right? And so how do you narrow it down? And I think it just comes down, it always goes back to what are you looking for? Who are you? What do you
Mhm.
need? What are some expectations, but also what do you think this coach can provide to you, or what would you like that coach to provide you with?
That is so good. And also, I would add values.
Mm-hmm.
Like, know your
Mhm.
why. Because I think a lot of us, when we are being, and I don't want to call it sold a dream or sold a resolution or anything like that, but at the end of the day, coaches market what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, does that align with your why though?
Mhm.
And you have to understand your values too, because your coach is going to display her values, how she walks in her business. And values is going to allow you to at least know, like, is this leader honest? Does
Mhm.
this leader do things in a place of, a heart centered place? Does she believe in family, right? Like maybe family is important to you because you're a mommy entrepreneur and you want to make sure that this person aligns with that, right? Like, can she support me because she understands my struggles? She understands my needs. She understands the type of support that I'm going to need if I'm going to be in this 3 month, 6 month, 1 year coaching container. Values is
Mhm.
so important, y'all. And don't let that kind of like skew you or like take you the other way because I know a lot of us we want to maybe sometimes mold or kind of adjust ourselves to fit to a particular coach, but I highly recommend to stand strong on your values. Make sure
That's
that
such a
they
good point.
align with that.
I love that point, Edie's, because I feel like when I was on social media, I would follow a few different people, and even though I liked their content, I know that I wouldn't hire them because of their certain habits. So, like, there's this one person who I really enjoyed their content, and I knew that they were very knowledgeable, but one thing that I didn't like is that they had a drink in their hand probably every day in their stories. And that turned me so off, and I would never hire them just because of that. I mean, for other people, that might not be a problem. That might not be something something that they care about, but for me, it's one of my values, right? And like, yes, you can be so knowledgeable, but if I can't relate to you, or if you're living a life that it doesn't align with me, I'm not going to hire you. And I know I am a really hard person to be sold to. I do not get impressed very easily, let me tell you that. Like I really don't get impressed very easily, and I feel like to be sold to, like there needs to be something that I see in you. Sometimes I will say I have made impulsive decisions in the past. Um but I
Yes.
think that I can be very skeptical when it comes to like hiring people, and because I'm investing my time, I'm investing my money, and I need to like you. And I feel
Yes.
like really understanding, going back to what you were saying, Edie, is like your values and really knowing what do you value? What do you like as a human, right? And does this person that you're working with, does this person align? Do their values align with your values? Do their lifestyle align with your lifestyle, or the lifestyle that you want? Things like that.
100%. And as you were talking about that too, Tati, I think it is important because you're right. Even in the past, when I've considered specific coaches, I have to make sure that for me, right, what's important for me is that are they a heart centered leader?
Mhm.
And for me, that's very important. Why? Because I show up a lot with that energy. Like I love to tap into my heart. I want to make sure that when I'm supporting people, that they feel held, seen, and that that there's empathy, that there's love at the end of the day, right? And if I meet someone who is hardcore on the hustle mode and that is how they work and work with their clients, that doesn't align with me because I don't want to hustle my clients into
Mhm.
something or feel like they have to go go go. When I want to be centered, I want to make sure that, hey, like, does this really align? I want to make sure that my heart is really in this versus just doing, doing, doing. That's super important. And that's where the discernment piece comes in because sometimes, and this has happened to me, and I will share this very vulnerably, is that just like you, Tati, I've invested in coaches in the past impulsively, or there have been coaches who I've considered. And because out of desperation, I'm like, they will change my life though. And maybe if I go into this, like it's going to change it. And I want to pause the listener who's in those modes to just take a breather, take a step back. And I promise you that when you're in that energy, it does not support you with the journey that you're trying to go ahead. It's very important to be leveled. It's important to really look at this person in a place of truth versus desperation because the
Mhm.
desperation later leads to resentment because you're like, dang, this person really didn't align with me. Or you kind of miss the cues, kind of like what you said, Lupe. It's a relationship, right? Like when you're dating and you're on that first date and you see the red flags and you ignore it because you're like, well, I'm tired of being single and I don't want to be out here on these streets. Like this
Yes.
sucks. And then you end up with the crappiest dude, right? It's coaching is the same way. So please, like,
Mhm.
have discernment, pick up those red flags, those cues, those little nudges, but be in a place where you're grounded and where you're allowing yourself to see truth. Right. And have your values set. Know what it is that you're wanting in a coach, right? Again, like make sure that you're in alignment with all those things. And it's okay to ask questions too, right? Like I invite you all to go onto the discovery calls, those consultation calls, the connection calls, whatever that coach may call it, to get that report. I kid you
Mhm.
not, that report session is going to allow you to see, like, do we vibe? Like, does she understand
Mhm.
me? Does she see me? Like, that is how you're going to know. And you're just going to know the answer afterwards, right? And if in that moment, you don't got to make a decision either. You are allowed to ask the questions to kind of vet and then at the end say I need some time to think and allow yourself to think. Like that's a good
Mhm.
thing, you guys, right? But of course, if you are intuitively in a grounded place already and you're like, on this call with Tati or Lupe or myself, and you're like, yes, I want to work with you because I've already known your work. I've developed that rapport with you. I trust your content. I'm a full yes, girl. Just tell me what
Mhm.
I got to do, right? That's a whole different energy because you're going in a place of higher frequency where it's an abundance, like energy flow there versus desperation mode. I
I
really want to
love
be careful with that.
I love that advice, Edie. I feel like, you know, going from, hiring coaches very impulsively, I feel like I've lived and I've learned, right? Like
Same girl, same.
I've lived and I've learned, and now I know that moving forward, anytime I invest my time or my money, I am going to do my research. I am going to ask those questions. And you know what? As a coach, so being on the other side, I also want my clients to ask me questions, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to work with someone who made an impulsive decision to work with me because I mean, that's a lot of pressure on the coach and on me, right? Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to feel like I need to fix you or save you or get you quick results. Like, I want to work with someone who did make an informed decision and who came to be because they did their research and they know that they want to work with me. And so, like, on the other side of, being a client looking for a coach and knowing, like, all right, I know moving forward, I am going to do my research. I also want my clients to do their own research. Like, for example, I worked with someone who asked me a gazillion questions before working with me because they had gotten burned by other people. They got scammed and they invested time. I mean, they invested money and their money was like stolen from them, right? And they asked for my credentials, they asked for my education, they asked for like literally proof that I was a real person
Mm.
or like a real professional because they had a really terrible experience in the past. And I sent them everything. Like, I sent them everything that I could possibly send them to show them, like, hey, here are my credentials. Here is my education. Here is my training. Here are the podcasts that I've like spoken on. Like, trust me, I'm a real person and I'm not here to scam you. I'm here to like actually help you. And then this person decided to actually work with me. And it felt in alignment. It felt good because I knew
Yes.
that once they said, "Okay, yes, I'm in," they weren't doing it because they felt pressured. They were doing it because they knew that they had done their research. And that's what I think, what we're all getting at is like it's important to ask those questions and do your research.
The alignment has to be both ways.
Yes.
It's like a job interview.
Yes.
The job interview is interviewing you as much as you are interviewing them because you want to know if you mesh. You want to know if you match. And it's not that you're allowed to ask questions, it's that you're supposed to be asking questions because
Correct.
if you're firm on your values, you know what you're looking
Mhm.
for. You have the questions. You know the questions you need to be asking this coach because otherwise that's what's going to discover if you're a scammer, if they're a scammer, if they actually mean what they're showcasing. And energy wise, I think it's so
Yeah.
important. For me, I would see all these coaches that weren't my color and I'm like, I wonder if that matters. And then when I started like really thinking about it and narrowing it down to my values, I was like, it does matter because someone as Latina as me is going to understand the family dynamics, the generational trauma, probably the generational cycles I'm going through. They're going to be able to relate to me more. And so, yeah, my first coach was a Latina because of that reason, because I knew that they would be able to somewhat mesh with my background, with my energy, with my lifestyle. And so I think those questions are definitely have
That's
to
a good
happen.
one too, Lupe. Sorry, you guys, I'm getting all excited, but it's like that is such a good point because that's exactly the mindset that I had in the very beginning when I hired my first coach. It was so important to me that she had to be Latina, brown, that looked like me, that resonated with my journey. Because that makes a difference, y'all. When
Mhm.
you are working with someone who resonates or at least understands what you've gone through, they're able to support you way better, right? Like, for example, even as a coach now, and a lot of my clients happen to be in the education space, I get to resonate with my clients because guess what? I've had that educational background. I worked in special education for 7 years and I understand IEPs and all that stuff and what it's like to have that heavy caseload and why it's so hard to take care of yourself. And when you have a coach and your client aligns with that, she feels seen. You feel seen at the end of the day, right? So it's so important for you to start looking even into those aspects of like, do I want a woman of color to be my coach? maybe I want a guy, right? Because there are guy coaches out there, you guys. Like there are
Mm.
guys out there, and some people work really well with men.
Yeah.
So that's like, those are other things, right? Or if you don't care if that other person is maybe like American white, right? And you resonate with everything that they have on that page, awesome, right? Like that
Yeah.
allows you to kind of see where you're at and also evaluate your season. Like your season of life is important. If you have a main focus where you want to do just health or somatic experiencing or learning how to let go of control, right? Like be honest with yourself because there are so many people out there, you guys, that want to do it all. But
Mhm.
take it easy. Like those coaches will always be available. Like things that I like to do when I see a great coach and I'm like, dang, I would love to work with her one day, is I have it on my notes on my phone where I'm like future coaches to work with one day, right? And I just add their names, right? Like with no pressure. But I do love to evaluate where I'm at in my current season because again, that's going to help you reach your growth and your goals based on that season and alignment, right? Because again, we can't do it all. Like I have known people, and I speak also of myself where I've been in 2 coaching programs. And let me tell you, that ish is hard. It is not easy to do 2 programs at the same time. It's a lot of work, you guys. It's a
It's
lot of
a
work.
lot.
And it takes
Yeah.
away the intentionality. It takes away your focus. It takes away the drive, the motivation, and that's a lot, right? Like, or even for programs like digital programs or products, right? Like if you're buying multiple things at a time, you really get
Mhm.
it done. No, you do not. So,
Yes.
and I'm calling us out all lovingly because I
Yeah.
know that
Yes.
example. I've gone through that and stuff. And we would be lying to you guys if we said that that's not true, that we don't face those things. Like we all go through those phases, but that's why we want to save you time and to really be intentional as you're navigating this new world of coaching and wanting to invest. And obviously, kudos to you, right? Because you want to improve, you want
Mhm.
to grow, you want to transform, but we want you to do that intentionally. We want you to do that in a place of alignment and authenticity and not get yourselves overwhelmed because healing is already so freaking hard, you guys. Like it's hard.
Mhm.
If we take it one step at a time, are intentional, and we truly do it in a place where we're honest with where our season is at, you're going to see the growth more beautifully. Like again, Lupe is the queen of this like quote, but like slow down to speed up, right? Like you are
Mhm.
going to, there is going to be a season where maybe you're going to be able to do 2 programs, maybe one program is shorter than the other, maybe it's different support systems, but start off where your baseline is at. And I promise you that's going to help you grow like every step of the way. But most importantly, it's going to help you be intentional with where you
Mhm.
invest. Because, yo, let's be real, like you're working hard to pay these coaches. And some of these coaching programs are not super cheap, right?
Bruh,
It's
bruh.
not. I know, seriously,
I'm like,
100%. Like,
you know
bruh,
how
like
much
what?
money I've spent on coaching, and
Same.
I think, oh, and it goes back to not acting impulsively. Like, I regret some of my purchases, and
Same.
I spent money, like thousands of dollars.
Yes, girl, I
And
feel you.
it's just
I feel you.
like, oh
Write-offs are
my
great, but they
gosh.
can only go so far.
Say that again?
I said write-offs are great, but they can only go so far.
Oh, yes,
Seriously.
1000%. Yes. Yes, and I think that's the thing. Like I feel like, oh, if you are spending so much money on something, you want to make sure it's a really good investment, right? And I think that, going back to what you were saying, Edie's like, we want to save you time, but we also want to save you money, right? Because if
Yes.
you are doing all of these different programs and you're buying all these digital products, like, you are spending a lot of money and you're not really being intentional with the program. Like, if you can just focus on one thing at a time, naturally you will know what your next step. But trying to juggle all of these different programs gets you really nowhere, right? It's like multitasking. Multitasking can only get you so far. Right? Like if
Yes.
you can just focus on one task at a time, you'll get more done than if you try to do all the things at once, right?
And
100%, girl.
intentional, excuse me, intentional and also realistic. And I
Yes.
say that because I've done it. And going back to what Tati just said, like multitasking too much. I can multitask, but what's going to happen at the end? I'm a burnout. Or I'm going to feel like there's too much information and I don't even know how to put it together. I don't even know how to apply it for myself. But also realistic with yourself. Do you need someone one on one? Are you going
Correct.
to thrive in a group coaching? Are you
Yes.
going to thrive on just the downloadable stuff that they're selling you. Because honestly, I was like, yeah, I got this. This is gonna work for me. I download it, and when did I touch it again? I did not.
Yeah,
Because
that
I'm not
happens.
that type of person. Or I know that group coaching is great, community, love it. But for me to action, I need that person to hold me accountable. And so I know I thrive with a one-on-one.
And I
And
love that you
so
said that.
being realistic with yourself of what works for you. Because if it's, oh, that sounds really good, it's not really my thing, but maybe it is. No. I
Yes,
mean,
girl.
try it by all means. And then I think that, like, if you are in a program and you're like, oh, maybe this wasn't for me, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like anything in life. At least you
Mhm.
tried it, and now you know what you don't want and what you shouldn't, what you should like keep an eye out for.
Yes.
And so it's okay to go through those scenarios as well, because we've all gone through them. Now we know. I can tell you this advice now. Like, look out for this,
Yeah.
look out for that. But yeah, like don't be hard on yourself if you're like, dang, I just wasted all that money and this doesn't feel, this ain't it. At least you learned. But
Yes.
yes, if we can help in saving you money, please let us know.
Yes. And also, Lupe, you touched about knowing the type of service that you need to, because you guys, you will see a lot of group coaching, you will see a lot of one-to-ones, and a lot of digital products that are out there. Where do you work best and where do you thrive? And that accountability piece is important, y'all, because when you are ready to invest as a coach, and I speak as for myself, when my clients are deciding to make that investment, accountability piece is so important because this is your promise to us. Like I think about pinky promises where it's like you are ready to commit. We want you to fully be intentional. We understand life happens. But in order to see your growth, guess who has to put the work, mamacita? It is you. Like, and
Yes.
we are going to do our very best to push you and keep you accountable, but it's a two-way street, right? Like, we cannot have the coach be the one who tries to transform you. You have to be ready to also do the work. And we're going to meet each other halfway. We're going to dance with each other, do all the things, but we need you to be just as ready. Just as like your
Yeah.
coach needs to be ready, you need to be ready. And again, I say that all in a place of love, right? Because we do have clients sometimes because they come in different walks of life where they feel like they need it, but then maybe because they purchase many programs or life is life in and it's a lot, right? Use that time to have, deep conversations with your coach, clear communication. Like if life is lifing, this is your opportunity, right? Just like when you have a partner and you need them to clean the house or wash the dishes or take the dog out, right? Like you have to let them know because your coaches are not mind readers, y'all,
Mm,
either. So
that's
Mhm.
true.
use that time to collaborate. You are a partnership. You are aligning with each other, holding each other's hand. And if the one person is not doing their job, then that's how things fall, right?
Yes. I love
So,
that. I feel like so I actually just said this to my Embodied Healing Collective group last week. I was like, or the first week when we first started it, I was like, this program works if you work it, right?
Mm,
And that's what it is, right? Like if you like I can only do so much. I can give you everything you need,
yes.
but if you're not doing your part, right, then it can only go so far. So I do think like looking back at my own experiences as a client, like was I working the program? Probably not. I wasn't working it because of different reasons, right? So it was
mhm.
like it is a two-way street and thinking about that. Question for the both of you.
Yes.
Okay. And for me too. I mean, I can
Yes.
answer this question, but like if people don't know what questions to ask, what kind of questions do you ask a coach, right? Like if you're like, I want to know, like I know what they do, I know what they offer, but how do I know if they're a good coach? What questions do I ask? What do you suggest?
Oh, that is such a good one. I have personally asked the coach in one of my calls where I'm like, what are your values, first off? And how are you showing that daily when you lead us?
Ooh, I like that. You know what? It's a red flag if I think if the coach is like, I'm not answering that, or like I don't feel comfortable, or if they give you like, do you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
they give you resistance around answering questions, like that's a red flag. We should
Yeah.
actually talk about that too, like red flags. But Lupe, you were gonna
Yes.
say something?
Um, I don't think it's a question because I don't think anything's coming to mind right now. But what comes to mind is the way they respond and the energy. So similarly to what Edie's just said, because I'm very honest in my connection calls. So I'm like telling you what I've gone through, how I'm not perfect, and how I can help you get through things. So I think it's more of connecting and making them feel comfortable. And if you don't feel that from your coach, then you're not going to have the comfortability to even speak up when things don't work out for you. Or you're going to be afraid, like, oh, I didn't do, like, I give homework. So I didn't do my homework. They're not going to feel comfortable, right? They're not going to be able to explain as to what they're struggling with. And if you don't feel that off the bat, or they're not giving you that energy, then that person just isn't for you either. I think
Mhm.
a coach that can automatically maybe even give you some actions that they're already thinking they can help you work through is super, super important, because I also immediately think of like doctors that have shut me down. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to work with me. You're already telling me what to do instead of asking me if this feels okay with me. And that's something I always ask my clients. How does that feel for you? Because if it doesn't feel right for you, then we're not meant to be. And so that's something also we have to keep in mind, that feeling. Because if a person's already willing to shut down your ideas, or where you're coming from, or giving you action steps that just aren't in alignment with you, that person just ain't it.
That's such
Mhm.
a good one, Lupe. That would be a great question to ask a coach. Like, how would you personalize this program for me and where I'm at?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, how can you really support me?
Yeah.
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think that's important because you're right. A lot of us, right, as we enter group coaching programs, because the environments are different. And even asking that, like, hey, coach, what's the difference between your one-to-one container and your group coaching container? And I don't mean through curriculum or all that, but what is the energy? What are the expectations? Like, how am I supposed to show up in these places? Right. I
Mhm.
think that helps because that also gives you discernment on whether or not the one-to-one coaching is a good fit or the group coaching is a good fit, right? Like, do
Mhm.
you need more of that one-to-one individualized time? Or are you okay with collaborating and being with a bunch of women who are going to speak out and say what's going on in their minds? And are you ready to take the initiative to actually make yourself be seen in these places, right? Because for a lot of our group coaching programs, depending on how your coach facilitates this, sometimes it's those who speak out loud. Are you comfortable with speaking out loud? Or ask your coach too, like, hey, coach, how do you also work with people who are maybe a little bit quieter in a group coaching setting?
Mhm.
How do you
Mhm.
support those individuals? Because I find myself in this season where I'm quieter. I don't
Mhm.
really speak out. Do you use the chat box to actually answer questions? Or hey, I work during that time, but I want to be present. Like, how do I put myself in these spaces without watching replays? Because replays are not my thing. And I
Mhm.
want to excel in these things, right? Like, asking those concrete questions, y'all, is important, 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 important. Because I think a lot of us, we think we can do it,
Mhm.
and then after a while, especially if you're a busy person, right? It's really hard to go back to the replay because you're so tired or dedicating that space and time. Like, how do you then get the proper support? And if you're in that season right now where you are busy with work, you can't make the group coaching meetings and watch the replays, then maybe that's a good sign for now that that's not for you, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe that one-to-one is because your coach may say, hey, you know what? Like, Martha, like, we could work together because my one-to-one coaching container actually works in this particular way. And I can meet with you on a Saturday versus doing a group coaching program that's on a Wednesday at 12 p.m. You know what I mean? Like, it just helps so much more. So I hope that kind of helps you all with certain questions. Because those are questions right now that I thought of in the fly where I was like, I wish I would have asked that when I first started investing in coaches.
I have one now. So just come with what you're struggling with. I'm struggling with X,
Mhm.
Y, and Z. How is your program going to help me through that? Are you
Mhm.
going to hold me accountable? If that's what you need.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good one. I
Mhm.
think for me, I wish that and this is one of my values, my personal values, and as a reminder that not everyone has this value, but I wished I had asked about education and training. That is what I value, and
Yes.
when I know that moving forward, I will only invest in people who have like the education trainings that I am looking for. And I think that I think it's okay to ask that too. Ask for my credentials all of the time. And so I think like if that's something that you value, it's okay to be like, hey, where'd you go to school? What are your credentials? What are your trainings? Because I know I get that question a lot, and I know that that's something that I value, and it's okay to ask that.
Yeah.
That's so good. And can you actually define that a little bit more too, Tati, for someone who's out there that may consider and maybe not know that that's a value? Like, what does education and training mean? Like when you're asking that of a coach?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I'm going to just use somatic experiencing as an example. So let's say I'm looking for my own somatic coach. I am looking for that somatic experiencing practitioner credential. It doesn't say somatic experiencing practitioner and it says somatic coach, I'm gonna ask them, where did you get trained in your somatic coaching? Like, what are your credentials? Like, how did you become a somatic coach, basically?
Yeah.
And if they tell me that they got a somatic coaching certification, then I know for me, oh, okay, they're not a somatic experiencing practitioner. So then that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm
Mhm.
going to keep looking. So it's like, what is it that you're looking for? And
Yes.
do they have specific training in whatever it is that you're looking for, if education is something that you value? So let's say that you are looking for someone who specializes in ADHD. Does the person have specific training in ADHD? Where did they get their training? Where, do you know what I mean? So it's like, what is it that you're looking for, and how can they coach you? How do you know that they're the expert in whatever they're coaching you in?
Yes.
I think because I'm in the mental health world, I think in that way of like mental health related things. So I want specific trainings. And I think obviously the people who come to me are also similar, right? Because like they're looking for mental health related support. And so obviously they're asking me those credential questions. So I think like in like the mental health world, I feel like it's very normal to ask about that education versus like if you're looking for a coach for, I don't know, I can't even think of it, another example of like something else, like you might not, like education and training might not be something that you need to ask about.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
100%. No, it
Yeah.
does. And I think that's important though, because I think a lot of us, right? Because there are, words being thrown around that sometimes maybe you don't need to be a full expert to go into something and teach for other people. And I think it is really important for you as the
Yeah.
listener, as you're looking for the proper coach for you, right? If education and training is your core value, that is an important question to ask in those calls, right? Like, how can you truly support me, and what are your strategies? Like, how does that look like? For example, is it okay if I can give you an example of what I'm going through? Like, I have a hard time focusing. How would you help me be more focused on your curriculum, all that stuff that I need to complete in order for me to be a success story, right? Like, I want to know that. And so those are great times to ask somebody. And I think that's really important. And I think that with life coaching is a little different, right? Because life coaching is such a different approach as well versus someone like Tati who is a specialist in something, and super important to also know the differentiation, right, you guys? Because I think that life coaching is a little different. I only say that because of me. Even though I am a certified life coach, it does look different. You could still ask your life coach, right? Because some will be certified, some are not. So that's something to be aware of, where you can ask for that. But again, that's where your values goes into place. Like, are you going to take the life coach who is certified or the one that's not? Right. And just kind of also evaluating, as Lupe said, because maybe the one that's not trained can really support you because she's learned so many different strategies and has the implementation strategies ready and set in place, while the other person may not support your exact needs. So that's really important as well. But I also wanted to put that radar out there for people, because when you are looking for a life coach, not everyone will be certified. So are you okay with that? Yes or no? So that's really important, because I feel like, again, that you're such an expert with the nervous system and all that, that I think it is important for those who are going in and really diving deep, see those type of credentials, see the expertise, see the continuous learning that's going on beyond that, because that's your body, right? Like, I think that's
Yeah.
very important.
And I think that's another reason why I feel so passionate about it too, because I feel like the nervous system is such a trend right now. And like, I just want to like, oh, not everybody knows about the nervous system. Do you know what I mean? Like, just
Yeah.
because they tell you how to regulate your nervous system doesn't mean they actually know how to heal the nervous system. But that's like my own personal pet peeve. Like, I feel like I've gone through years and years of like training to understand trauma and the nervous system, that like it really bothers me when someone got like a 1 month certificate on the nervous system or trauma and then like call them, I don't know if it's 1 month, but like I'm just like over
Yeah.
exaggerating here, but like I'm just kind of like saying, do you know what I mean? Like, and like the difference between like trauma trained versus trauma informed versus trauma aware. And like, I know that it's so much to think about, but like, someone who is trauma informed is not trauma trained and knows how to properly heal trauma because they're just trauma informed
Yeah.
versus like trained. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope that's
Yeah.
making sense to everybody.
100%. I
Mhm.
think that is important for people to really start at least right now. It may feel overwhelming to understand these terms, but now you know they're
Yeah.
planted in your mind now. You kind of heard it. It's going
Mhm.
to be one of those key words that you're going to be aware of. So don't allow this information to overload you, but see a lot of this information that we're giving you all as an opportunity to be aware. You're increasing your awareness now because now you're going to be so skilled. You're going to be like a ninja where you're going to go into these places and then you're going to ask the right questions. And these coaches are going to be so freaking impressed by you because they're going to be like, dang, this girl knows her stuff. She knows what she wants and she's not here to be scammed. Like she's ready to do the work. And
Yes,
Mhm.
that
it's
is important.
empowering.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Right? Like, and that's how you want to feel going into your coaching investment, right? You want
Yes.
to feel empowered from the
Mhm.
very moment you make that interaction with that coach.
Yeah,
Yep.
because everything's an energy exchange. It's a
Yeah.
Mhm.
frequency, right? So if you're going in a place of desperation, of course you're not gonna get all of that. That low vibration's gonna hit. But the moment you go with that empowerment energy and you're ready and you know the stuff and you are confident with what you're asking, you're gonna go into this high vibration mode and frequency, and your experience is gonna be so amazing, y'all. Like that is what alignment and authenticity stands for. And we truly believe in that. That's actually one of our core values when we're leading this place of Latinas in Transformation because we want to make sure that you guys are always showing up authentic, always flowing, always connecting, right, to the most aligned people and authenticity, like you staying true to yourself, no matter in what spaces you decide to enter. And that also includes coaching when you're being supported by someone because we want to make sure that more Latinas, as they're investing in their healing journeys, whether it's in health like Lupe or like Tati with the nervous system or me, right, with general life coaching experiencing like experiences, it's so important for you all to be in a place of empowerment and where you're truly seen as who you are, who this version of you needs in this particular moment, and just making sure that you have the most aligned person guiding you. That is so important to us. That's why we created this episode because we're like, we're not trying to have our Latinas be scammed out in these streets. We want you guys to feel
No.
empowered and to really just go in there confidently and knowing who you want and making sure that they're in alignment with you.
And just one last tidbit, because you said empowerment. Your empowerment doesn't end when you're interviewing each other, it
Correct.
continues. So even throughout your coaching, like
Okay.
if you still realize that you need something else all of a sudden, don't be afraid to ask that coach, hey, you know what? Can we get a little bit more of this and a little bit more of that? A little less of this. I actually feel more comfortable with that now. And switching gears. And so I feel like, the empowerment doesn't end at the beginning. Like once you start, it continues. And the same way we evolve, like this is why I think the comfortability is so important because you want to feel comfortable to ask these questions even throughout your coaching program. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's a good point that you bring up as well. Comfortability. I think a lot of us, we dismiss that.
Hmm.
Use again that time when you're calling the coach or you guys are on that call to build that rapport. And building rapport, y'all, is not just trust, but are you comfortable?
Hmm.
Do you
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
safe with this coach?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is so key because as you keep moving along, right? If you say your yes and you're like, I'm so excited to work with this coach, and you go into this program and you need to voice particular needs, it's going to come a little bit easier because you already know that you're comfortable with this person, that it's safe enough to do that in that environment and to keep empowering yourselves too. Because
Hmm.
remember, y'all, you invested time, money, energy, everything, todo. So it's like, make sure that you are empowering yourself to always advocate for your needs. Because guess what, too, y'all? You're also helping your coach be a better coach.
Hmm.
Mm,
You're
mhm.
helping your coach be a better coach. And I'm saying that, again, because I think it's so important to emphasize because some of us, we shy away from sharing our needs, but no, share your needs so your coach can say, boom, I'm going to be creative and I'm going to actually do something different so my client gets what she deserves. That makes her
Mhm.
a better coach, y'all. And you
Yeah.
are going to walk out of there with the transformation that you want.
That's so
Yes.
good. Yes. I
Love it.
love that.
We're going to wrap it up because we do know that we're at our time. But can I also just extend my gratitude to all of you, our Latinas in Transformation community? You all have been amazing listeners. I know a lot of you guys are our cheerleaders and sending us beautiful DMs of like how our episodes are hitting you or resonating. And just thank you for your energy exchange, because I know being on here listening to us on a podcast or a YouTube, you're dedicating time to us, and we don't take that lightly. So we're so grateful for you. We hope that this episode served you in so many ways. Let us know how it helped you. If you do decide to invest on a coach, like that would be so dope to hear, like what helped you out of this episode. But most importantly, we hope that we just allow you to just keep increasing that discernment, step into that authenticity, and remember, y'all, to stay lit. And we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Lit Podcast. We hope this conversation has ignited a spark within you so that you keep embracing your journey.
Remember, transformation takes time, but every step brings you closer to the life you're meant to live. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review.
Let's continue this journey together. Until next time, stay lit and keep transforming.